Have you ever really stopped to think about the paradox at the heart of, well, everything digital?
It really does revolve around one person.
One person. An intellect so advanced that the world just, it wasn't ready for him? Not scientifically, and definitely not socially.
We are talking about Alan Matheson Turing, and the paradox is, it's profound. Here's a man who basically defines the modern computer.
He invents the concept of software.
Right, and he was instrumental, truly instrumental, in saving millions of lives in World War II. But the same society he saved, it turned on him. It broke him.
It's a scientific revolution and a human tragedy all rolled into one.
It is.
So today we're doing a deep dive into Turing's life, his work, his legacy, and we're going to connect these seemingly abstract ideas he had in the 1930s directly to the tech that's in your pocket right now.
And our mission, really, is to understand how his thinking, which all started with one simple world-changing question, can a machine think? How that became the digital DNA for everything we use, from cryptography to AI.
If you want the real origin story of the computer age,
Yeah.
this is it.
This is it.
Okay, so let's start with the man himself, Alan Turing. Born in London, 1912. And from what our sources say, he was, right from the start, sort of a glitch in the system.
Oh, definitely. He was just wired differently. He was not a typical kid.
Right.
While other kids were playing, Turing was, taking things apart. He had this intense need to see how they worked, to understand their internal logic. He even taught himself calculus, advanced math, years before school ever got to it.
And there's this one story from his school days that just says it all. He solved this incredibly complex math problem so quickly, so elegantly, that his teachers, they genuinely couldn't figure out how he'd done it.
That's the key part. Their first reaction wasn't, wow, this kid's a genius. It was suspicion.
They thought he cheated.
They debated it. Was it cheating or was it something else entirely? They did land on genius, but it just shows how far outside the lines his mind was working even then.
But this solitary brilliance, it had an anchor, an emotional anchor. And to understand his work, you have to understand his friendship with Christopher Morecambe.
Absolutely. Christopher was a fellow student who shared that same intensity, that love for science. He was, by all accounts, Turing's closest confidant, his intellectual equal.
They were a team.
A real team. And that's what makes what happened next so defining.
The tragedy.
Christopher died suddenly. Bovine tuberculosis. He was only 18.
And this it broke Turing. But it also pivoted his entire life's focus. The grief was so immense, it pushed him from pure mathematics into these huge philosophical questions.
Yes, our sources really confirm this, that personal loss became the engine for his life's work. He started grappling with it. If a human mind, this complex thinking thing, can just end?
Could that complexity be replicated?
Exactly. Could you build it in something else, something non-biological? That question, born from grief, if humans can think and someday die, can a machine think too? That became the motivation for everything.
It's incredible. Grief literally giving birth to computer science. So, with that motivation, let's jump forward a few years. It's 1936.
Right. And Turing, still only in his mid-20s, writes this paper on computable numbers.
To say he was advanced is?
An understatement, a massive understatement. When it was published, maybe a handful of people on the entire planet actually got what he was saying. He was describing, mathematically, a machine that did not exist.
The Turing machine. We hear the term, but what was the actual leap? Why was it so different?
The leap was its universality. Before Turing, a calculating machine was built for one job.
Like a calculator for square roots.
Exactly. You want to do square roots, you build a square root machine. You want to solve a different equation, you have to build a whole new machine. Turing's idea was that the hardware, the physical machine itself, could stay the same.
So it's not the machine that changes, it's the instructions you give it.
Precisely. He realized one single machine could perform any calculation if you just gave it the right program, the right list of instructions.
That's the moment. That is the conceptual birth of software. He separated the instructions from the hardware.
He invented software before the word software even existed. One of the sources puts it perfectly. You don't need a different machine for every task. One machine can do everything if you program it.
And right there, that's the connection for everyone listening. The phone in your hand, your laptop, your smart TV, they're all just universal Turing machines. They're all running on that exact blueprint from 1936.
Yeah.
He literally designed the world we live in.
But that abstract theory was about to get a very, very real-world test.
World War II. And Turing's abstract genius suddenly becomes a wartime necessity. The problem: A German code machine called Enigma.
And Enigma was devastating for the Allies. It was considered unbreakable. Every single German communication, U-boat movements, attack plans, supply lines, it was all encrypted. The Allies were flying blind.
And the scale of the problem was just astronomical. The number of possible combinations Enigma could produce was 159 million.
It's a number so big it's meaningless. I mean, trying to break that by hand would take a team of code breakers millions of years.
Yeah.
For a single day's code, it was impossible.
So Turing gets brought to Bletchley Park, Britain's secret code-breaking headquarters. And his proposal isn't, let's hire more people.
No, his proposal was, we build a machine to defeat their machine.
And this is where the theory becomes reality.
He and his team designed the bomb. It was this big, loud, clattering electromechanical device, but it was built on the logical principles from his 1936 paper. The question was, how do you even start to search 159 million possibilities?
Right, you can't just guess. It would still take forever. So what was the trick? The insight.
The insight was something called a crib. Turing realized they didn't have to guess the whole message. They could guess a tiny, highly probable part of it.
What do you mean? Like a common word?
Exactly. For example, they knew many German messages included a standard weather report or ended with Heil Hitler. They had these known fragments of plain text.
Okay, so they're not looking for a needle in a haystack. They're using a tiny piece of the needle to rule out most of the haystack.
That's a perfect way to put it. The bomb would churn through the settings, and it would only stop when it found one that correctly translated that little crib. That narrowed the possibilities from astronomical down to just a handful, which a human could then check. It was applied software logic in hardware.
And it worked. Every day, they were breaking Enigma, giving the Allies this critical intelligence to, for example, win the Battle of the Atlantic.
And the historical estimates here are just staggering. The sources say Turing's work shortened the war by at least 2 years.
And saved an estimated 14 million lives.
14 million. But here's the crushing twist in the story.
Nobody knew.
Nobody. It was all top secret. He couldn't tell anyone, not his family, not his friends. He saved the world in total silence.
A silent savior. And that silence, tragically, is what allowed what happened next.
After the war, he kept working. He moved on to what we now call artificial intelligence.
So when he comes up with the Turing Test.
Right. Originally called the imitation game, it's still the benchmark we use. Can a machine fool a human into thinking it's also human? He was literally writing the rules for the future we're living in right now.
But instead of being celebrated as a war hero, as a visionary, the world turned on him.
In 1952, he was arrested. At that time in Britain, being gay was a crime, gross indecency. And the court gave him this unbearable choice.
Prison or chemical treatment?
Essentially chemical castration, hormone injections meant to cure him, and he chose the treatment because he hoped it would let him keep doing his work.
But it destroyed him.
It destroyed him. The sources are clear. The treatment ruined his health, both physical and mental. It completely derailed his career just when he was at his peak. Think of the innovation we lost.
He died in 1954, just before his 42nd birthday. There was a half-eaten apple by his bed. And while people still debate whether it was suicide or an accident, the outcome is the same. The world lost him.
But time, thankfully, has a way of revealing genius. Decades later, as the digital age really exploded, scientists started looking back.
And they realized it all comes back to Turing.
Everything. Modern computers, algorithms, cryptography, AI. It all traces back to that 1936 paper and the work at Bletchley Park.
Your smartphone is running on the fundamental logic he invented. Every AI model today is using the kind of algorithmic filtering he pioneered to break Enigma. He really is the father of the digital age.
He is.
And eventually, some official recognition came. The British government apologized in 2009.
And the Queen gave him a royal pardon in 2013, acknowledging the crime committed against him.
Which was necessary, of course.
Well,
but his real legacy isn't the pardon.
No, his real legacy is this: the world we live in. He imagined a future that literally no one else could see, a future where one machine could do anything.
And today, we're all just living in that future.
His whole journey started with that question, can machines think? And now we're surrounded by the answer every single day, in every app, every line of code.
It's amazing that it all came from such a human place. From grief, from loss.
It is. Which brings us to a final thought for you to take away. Since Turing's invention of AI logic was sparked by the loss of a human mind, how closely should we now be studying human feeling, human experience, to truly understand the boundaries and maybe the purpose of what he created? Something to think about the next time you ask your phone a question.